A circle full of dogs. We put in the work. Oh, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs.
Hey guys, welcome to New York Giants Rush. Craig is on hiatus tonight. He'll be back next week. So you got Joker here running the show with Spartan and Truth. We got a good one. A couple debates we're gonna have here tonight. Talk about some off-season stuff with Hard Knocks. Look at some of the defensive stuff. So we got a good one. So excited about Spartan and Truth joining us. So Spartan and Truth, come on in, guys.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, the boys are back.
The boys are back. We're about to hit the arguments heavy tonight, from what I hear.
We are. Craig left us in charge, so you know what that means.
That's right. Nobody to watch the children while the boss is away.
Yeah,
Something like that. I could have said that a little bit cooler, but I failed.
That's all right. Not everybody can be cool. It's okay, Spartan. You're good.
But
I mean, well,
thing to do a quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, Truth. Back in the office, I see we got the piano there. So nice, very nice, awesome stuff. So, well, I know we got some good topics to talk about tonight. And Truth, I don't know if you're going to hit us with numbers as part of these debates because we know that's your area of specialty. But we're going to have a little young versus old again here tonight because Spartan was all over Twitter the last couple of weeks. He's got some things he's passionate about. So
that's right.
It's going to be a fun one, but. Before we get into that, I thought we'd start with Kayvon and LT, that whole thing this week. So, Truth, I'll ask you first, man. What'd you think of the whole, Tibbs comments and the whole LT thing and LT's reaction? What's your thoughts on that?
I gotta be honest. I was very busy at work. I didn't know or hear too much about it, so I think maybe Spartan might need to start this off, and I'll interject after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened here was Thibs said the other day that he wants to live up to the excellence of Lawrence Taylor. That's a big statement coming from a player like Thibs because LT is the greatest defensive player of all time. It would be extremely tough for Thibs to live up to the potential of the greatest defensive player of all time.
Right.
That said, I don't mind Thibs making a statement like that because he said it respectfully and he just set out a goal. I haven't heard a lot of Giants players in the last few years express those kind of statements. And to me, what it reads is this guy wants to excel. He wants to work hard in making it happen, which, by the way, he works really hard. You saw him go from a struggling rookie to a formidable defensive end. I can't wait to see what he does this upcoming season. And so when you set the goal so high, you shoot for the moon, you miss, and you land amongst the stars. That's what I want for Thibs, right? I don't expect him to be LT. He doesn't expect him to be LT. I'm sure his parents don't expect him to do that. Could he be a regular year in, year out all-pro guy, though? Could he set the edge? Could he be a formidable guy from that regard and, be feared by most NFL quarterbacks? Absolutely. And so I'm glad to hear that. I would have loved it if some of the guys that the Giants drafted in years past looked to older Giants and said, I want to be as great as that guy was. We had Leonard Marshall on the show. And forgive me, I don't curse very often on the show, but I do have to make an exception tonight. We had Leonard Marshall on the show, and we asked him if one of the current Giants called you right now for mentorship, what would you say? Before I even finished that question, he said, I would mentor the shit out of them. That's what I want. You know what I'm saying? You're speaking about these old players. You bring that in. As Giants fans, we got to love that. And at the same time, you're shooting high for these goals, right? So I want Thibs to really succeed. and him laying down the foundation, that's his goal to be LT. You know, I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree, and I like it because, you know, we haven't, like you said, you know, we haven't seen a lot of these players in the past kind of be, hey, I'm going to shoot for this, I'm going to go for this, right? Like we've got more of those competitive dogs in my mind going on, and you know, true to you as being one of the elder statesmen here as well. Like, when's the last? Like, it seems this off season, and there's been a lot more of, and I know it's the 100-year celebration, but it seems that the legends have been more involved in the last year or two than they have in years past. Like, is that something you're seeing, and what are your thoughts like about bringing some of these past greats in to really help the new guys?
I'm all for it. I mean, we've spoken about this on and off for a couple of years on this show about this, and I love it when former Giants get involved with the organization and you know, give their wisdom, give their expertise to the younger guys. And you know, I think it's great. Like Leonard Marshall, he's all for it, like you said. I mean, I think it's a great thing. And after what Spartan just said, and hearing what Kayvon said, I like that he said that. I like that he showed a lot of confidence, and he wants to, you know, carry on that Giant tradition that it is the defense. That always been the Giants, our trademark. So, you know, I didn't know if LT responded. You guys said he responded. What did he say to that, LT?
He did. So LT asked Thibodeau how many sacks he had last year, and Thibodeau told him, and LT was like, would you only play in 3 games? So
that's like older brother wisdom right there, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it was kind of like, all right, young pup, let's get you going now. Like, it was a nice jab. It was a fun jab. It was good from that. So, and again, if you know, Tibbs wants to break, you know, the sack record here too. He's mentioned that this offseason as well. So there's a couple big takes from Thibodeau that, at least from a mindset, you want to see that, again, hasn't been here. So go after those things. And, you know, was it Lombardi who said, like, perfection's unattainable, but if you strive for it, you're going to reach greatness. So let's see Thibodeau be great. Like, go for those. Go for the sack record. Try to be like LT and fall somewhere short, and you're still going to be great. Like, we need that. And I think the competition with him and Burns, like, in team, is gonna, I mean, it's gonna be great for both of them. So I'm really excited about, you know, what both those guys can do there.
Yeah.
You know, you bring up a good point, because and this is what I love when you have 2 guys that are great at edge. They're going to only make the other one better, because they're going to have the opposing teams are going to have to set a lot of time aside trying to figure out how they're going to be able to stop 2 very good edge rushers. So Burns will make Phibbs better. Phibbs will make Burns better. We saw this with the Giants in the late 2000s with all the defensive ends that they had. They all made each other better because it was so hard to stop one of them, let alone 2 of them. Yep. So I'm super excited to see the Giants edge situation this year. And look, Phibbs had 11.5 sacks last year. I don't think it's out of the realm for him to get, you know, between 12 and 15. That'd be a phenomenal year. Yeah.
And both those guys are going to make Lawrence better, and Dexter's going to make both those guys better as well. So you have 3 guys now that an offensive coordinator has to game plan for.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge. And again, you got guys coming off the edge that'll push the quarterback up into Dexter, and Dexter getting pressure is going to push them guys outside to either Tibbs or Burns. So there's a nice thing there. And I know, listen, Crypto's already getting things going here with the Tib take. So I'll just say this: he's in year 3, so you're not going to see. We expect guys to be great year 1, and I think that's unfair, because there's only a handful. There's not that many that are great year 1. Year 3, and I think Carl Banks has said it. He might even said it on this show, right? Like, it takes 2 to 3 years for a player to really understand his craft, the NFL, and being with a particular team. So let's see what he can do this year, right? Again, he's saying the right things. He's putting the work. He's gotten bigger and stronger. He's noticeably stronger, right? And again, those are the intangibles that you look at that now you hope they translate on the field. And again, having that Burns on the other side is going to make him that much better. So I agree with you guys. And I, again, being excited, it's something to look forward to, right? Because we haven't had superstars to look forward to, and maybe now we do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And keep in mind, it took Strahan a few years to get to where he was becoming one of those top tier rushers, pass rushers in the NFL. So it takes time.
Yeah, it does. It does. Well, kind of moving into that, when we talk about pass rushers and things like that, what I'm I don't know about you guys, but I'm really looking forward to the Hard Knocks that's going to come up here in a couple weeks. And if you guys saw that little short clip there that showed the behind the scenes and the process of, Bowen talking to the team, I mean, man, like we're going to get some good insight. And I think, people complain, oh, what are we going to see? Like that's a huge thing to hear him talk about Isaiah Simmons being a 3-down player, right? Looking at Riley Anderson, looking at, Boogie Basham, like those are things we haven't gotten in the past. And so what were your guys' takes from seeing that little Hard Knocks video? And what are you guys thinking about, that show coming up, getting that insight into the offseason and truth? Go ahead. You can kick it off this time.
Well, yeah, I always liked watching the Hard Knocks, whether it's the other teams, not just the Giants. This is going to be really fun watching the Giants because that's, of course, our team. And I'm going to see, I want to see how much they cover the draft portion because I'm very curious to see what went on in that war room in this draft. But I am looking forward to it and seeing how all the little things that we don't know what goes on in the NFL and in locker rooms. It's nice to see that stuff. It gets you a little closer to the game.
Yeah. Spartan, how about you?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I wasn't able to see the clip of the Hard Knocks. Can you explain what happened in it? You said something about Bowen?
Yeah, so they had Bowen in talking to Shane and Daves and the other personnel staff, kind of what his defense was going to look like, players he was looking at, type of players he was looking at. So it really gave some insight onto what his defense was going to be. And he talked about how he wanted to have guys that, get after the quarterback. The front four was going to be very important. He also said the two middle backers were the two most important positions in his defense. They're the guys that are going to carry a lot of the weight. So they have to be understanding things. So that tells you right there, though, Okereke is going to wear the green dot, right? So just things like that. And then they talked about Isaiah Simmons, who was going to be the nickelback or the third safety in the and first and second down, and then like the money backer on third down. So it sounds like Sims is going to get a lot more play in Bowen's defense. And then just talking about defensive ends, who could be defensive ends in his system. Could it? And again, this is all before like Chapman was added and some of the other guys, but looking at like Riley Anderson, he mentioned Boogie Basham first. Like, could Boogie Basham be that guy as a D end in his system to really get after the quarterback? So that's what he talked about.
Did you say Ryder Anderson? He likes him.
He mentioned Ryder Anderson and Boogie Basham as two possibilities as the D end position. Because again, you have to have that D end next to Dexter, right? So who's going to fill? Could Jordan Riley be the other guy? Like, so it's going to be interesting when you think about the DM position again, because in the 3-4, you think of like what a Leonard Marshall was, a George Martin was. Those are the guys that could have Ryder Anderson, could have Biggie Basham. They're not going to be on their level. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying there. But playing that position, that's what he wants. He wants those guys that can also get pressure along with Thibodeau and Burns and Dex.
Gotcha. So, I mean, commenting on the defense, I do like to hear that from Bowen, but I know that your original question pertains to Hard Knocks. So, I am excited that the Giants are on Hard Knocks because I don't think they've been on it before. In all the years that Hard Knocks has been on, it's been on for I think over 20 years now. I think they started with the Ravens after they won the Super Bowl. So, do I get a little worried if things like, internal problems on the team get, shown out on TV? Yeah, it keeps me up a little bit. But, in years past, it's never really quite happened. See some clips of some fights that break out, but that just is what it is. It's what happens on a team. I'm for my own sake, I'm very curious to hear, a little bit more from these coaches, see clips of what it looks like with Brissolo, coaching up the offensive line. I'd love to see that. I think that's the part that's most exciting because we've never really had insight into the different personalities of the Giants in years past. Apparently, Eli Manning was hilarious. I would have never expected him to be like the team class clown. Not until years later you can kind of look back and see it, but he always looked like a pretty dull personality, right? Yeah. So I'm very curious to see that. I'm curious to see some of the dynamic discussions that are going to happen involving personnel when certain players get cut, sometimes controversial. So I'm very excited that the Giants are on Hard Knocks. I do not have HBO, though, so I'll probably only be able to watch the clips that are broken up and put on YouTube, unfortunately. But I think it's a very good opportunity for Giants fans to get a better idea of what's going on behind closed doors, because otherwise we're generally just left guessing. So people can't make stuff up on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing too is in that one of the videos that was posted too, Dabs learned that if he was playing music, that they couldn't listen in or they couldn't do what they need to do because of copyright laws. So he very quickly found out if he didn't want them to know something, he started playing music and they couldn't do it. So Giants have to approve everything, but I thought that was funny too. That Dabs is a smart guy, man. He's a very smart guy. So that was kind of funny, right? Like, so
what if the next day he's like, get that camera out of my face, like the classic, like just stiff on the camera.
Yeah.
What that's what it turns into. Like, what if he just becomes like a giant, like social media sensation because he's like the Tiger King or whatever, treating the, just complete center of attention guy.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing too is like, I think Dabs, now that he lost that weight, he's got a little more personality. He seems a little happier. I think with Wink being gone, he's a lot happier, less stress in his life, right? So like he, that at the night of the legend, somebody said, throw the ball. And he's like, we will. So it was kind of funny. He's letting his person come out. I do want to comment. Crypto, man, he gets me fired up. He knows what to say. We're not hyping up guys that suck. Again, we're talking about guys, Basham or Anderson, who will go to a new position. X-Men, Zimenez was playing an edge rusher. That's not a DN. So bash him with the size. Maybe he was out of position. Maybe he could do some things. So we're not hyping him up, but it's just, this is what Bowen's looking at. And I'll say this, Bowen, when you look at what he's done, he has developed guys who weren't star talents and he made them into having decent years.
And
right?
he sees these guys, right?
Yeah, he sees them. And again, this is before Chapman was added, so Chapman could take over that spot. That's a guy I'm really excited about, right? Like, so you just don't know. But again, it's nice to see Bowen looking at guys and be like, oh, I think they can do some things here, and moving them into position where I don't think Wink did those things. Like he wasn't a guy that was like, you had to fit his system. He wasn't going to figure out a way to make guys work into his system, right? Like, and I think Bowen, that's a nice change. He's going to take their strengths and put them in a position where they can succeed.
I hope. I do have reservations with him with secondary coverage. I get a little bit worried.
Why is that?
Why is that?
Yeah,
they were not that good against the pass defense, and that was an area where under we weren't necessarily perfect under Wink. Obviously, we were worse against the run than the pass. When I compare Patrick Graham and Wink, I'd rather have a defense that's worse against the run than worse against the pass. Don't get me wrong. If you're giving up big plays, you're giving up big plays. But, a lot of times the Giants defense came up pretty big against the quarterbacks 2022 and 2023. And I want to make sure that stays in place. I don't want them to skip a beat because I really thought the Giants secondary in 2022 going into that year was going to suck, and they actually turned out to be just fine. So as long as they don't skip a beat with that, because they have a little bit of turnover this year.
Well, looking at that last year, the Titans actually were only one spot above the Giants in passing. Mm-hmm. So they actually were better, and also in the red zone they were better. So I think with Bowen's system, because he does play more zone, so there'll be more help over the top. So looking at the numbers, the Titans were not that. Again, they were one spot higher than the Giants in the rankings when it came to passing, but huge, largely above when it came to against the run. Like that, like
we were not good in that category at all.
Yeah.
I think one thing I'll hold, and I do not have a stat for this, but just knowing that it plays into the Giants' defensive stats a little bit. The time of possession that the Giants had, because the offense did a lot of 3-and-outs, affects how often that defense was on the field, and affects a little bit the stats. I just want to take a look at that when I get the chance, just so I have a little bit of a better idea of what, a 300-yard game was for the Titans versus a 300-yard game for the Giants. And it won't be completely telling, and I got to do more homework on that because it's a very good point that they ranked a little bit ahead of the Giants in that category. But I need to look into that. Yeah,
it's going to be, and again, I think the biggest thing for him is he's going to use the 4-down lineman to get after the quarterback, so he's not going to put his defense in compromising positions like Wink did. Like Wink was exotic, we get it, but he generated pressure from other positions like blitzes off the corner or whatever else. He didn't rely on the edge rushers. Like that was his MO throughout his years. So if Bowen can develop guys, and again, from what I've seen and doing the research once he was hired, he has developed guys that have had career years when it came to sack totals, and they didn't have the talent. So it's gonna again. If you're going to look at something like,
or the Giants have more talent than the Titans do on defense, because looking at it on
Yeah.
paper, I'm there. I kind of think we do.
we do, and we have a better. I know people are worried about the secondary, but they had a better secondary than what the Titans did as well. Like from what I look, who was there and everything else, like on paper, yeah, defense is better. Like, yeah, you had Simmons up the thing, but you didn't really have anybody else. You had Harold Landry and I forget the other guys, the other edge rusher, which again, they weren't dominant guys, right? So now on paper, you have Burns, you have Thibodeau, you have Dexter Lawrence, you got Okereke. Like they didn't have guys like that on that Titans defense. You know, they were more like the Titans were more like a Patriots defense. They went with like a no name, but guys did their job, filled their role.
They were in the right position.
So they proved it on the field, not on paper, right?
Right, exactly. So if Bowen can get these guys to do what they're supposed to do and be in this, which again, if you look back to Wings 2 years, like you saw a lot of guys, and I think even McKinney said this too, like guys just didn't know what they were doing a lot of times. They were confused and they were out of spots. So if you simplify this and have guys that can play athletically, like there are some athletes on that Giants defense. And I think if the less thinking you can do, by far the better for this Giants defense.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I wrote an article this past week for Rush, and I talked about 3 things that the Giants need to do to make the playoffs in 2024. I wrote an article like this in 2022, and wanted to do a repeat. I didn't do one for last year, so wanted to do it again this year. But one particular area that the Giants have to do that they're already doing is keeping it up with the turnovers on defense. You know, that was one part of Wink's game that was absolutely phenomenal. By the way, guys, they had a plus 12 turnover ratio, meaning that for all the turnovers they caused on defense, getting the ball back, if you subtract all the times the offense coughed up the ball, they were in a plus 12 position, which is very good. Statistically, they were the only team in the last 25 years that had that good of a turnover ratio and didn't make the playoffs, right? Imagine what we could do with an average offense if we had that plus turnover ratio of 12. That is huge. That is very telling that this is a trait of the Giants defense that will help them win so long as the offense can get up to speed. And don't get me wrong, everything we're talking about, there were problems with Wings defense. We saw that Saints game. I thought Craig's head was going to explode because I was pissed off too. That was a bad game. There were bad games all over the place. But this is something that's got to remain in place.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. And just real quick, Crypto, thank you, man. $10. Shout out to us.
Thanks,
Gave
Crypto.
me a little hard time, then donated $10. So we'll take that. Anything you want to say about me, go ahead. Just throw the donation in afterwards.
Once you
Yeah,
put that
everybody
on,
insult us one by one, but you have to.
Yeah. I get I'm old school. I get excited about defense. Like the 80s Giants, like they had great defenses. So I'm going to get to use Crypto's words, I'm going to get very bullish on defense because that's what I grew up with. That's what I watched. LT and Banks and Marshall, right? I get excited about defense. Now the offense, that's a different story, right? Like I'm not going to be as bullish on the offense, but I've said it before and you guys can comment here too. Like it's the off season. Like that's what it's for. You're supposed to get excited because then you get negative all season. Like I can't be negative all year round. I got to have something to look forward to, right? That's my take. So.
I love it. That's a true Giants fan right there. Am I right, Truth?
Yeah. I'm the same way, Shawnee. I'm from the old school's defense. That's where I always navigate to. So I hear you.
Yeah, I mean that's what the draft is for. That's what free agency's for. Like to be optimistic about your team. Like again, you can be plenty negative during the season when they playing like crap or if they play like crap. But again, there are some things, in my opinion, to look forward to what the Giants have done this offseason, which leads to the next thing I want to talk about before we kind of get into the debate section here. Special teams, new special teams coach. There was word coming out this week that the Giants were looking at Manigo from Arlington of the UFL, who is like one of the leading return specialists in that league. So I find it interesting, and I'm excited that it looks like we now have a special teams coach that is making special teams a priority and doing some things. So what are your guys' thoughts when it comes to looking at bringing in some of these UFL guys with the new kickoff rules who've played under that new kickoff rule and having that experience, and Giants looking into it? Like, Spartan, I'll ask you first. Like, what's your thoughts on, number one, having a special teams coach that seems like has a clue of what he's doing, and then looking at these, UFL guys that come in?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. So I do like that the UFL is there. I'm starting to become like a minor league for the NFL, because it gives these players or coaches perhaps opportunities or second chances or landing spots until they get that second chance. So I'm glad that right now we have a second league that's doing all right. On special teams, I don't know much about our new special teams coach. All I ever ask, I don't want any aggressive special teams coach. I just want a guy who's going to get the right players in there, and we don't have to think about special teams. They get the job done. That said, even though we definitely need to move on, I wasn't all that disappointed with our special teams at times last year, especially on the return side. They actually seem to be pretty effective. So, listen, I just want to be in a state where I'm not complaining about punters missing the ball, or guys that just can't tackle on kick return. Even in the Giants' heyday, they still had pretty crappy special teams. They did, except for one area. There's one area the special teams were, up until last year, it's the opposite, have never been an issue. I'm just going to say it because you guys probably can't even think of a time that we've had a detrimental blow up with our kicker situation. Let's go through the Giants' history real quick. And I'm getting a little off rails here. In the 80s, 90s, I mean, has there ever really been an incident where the Giants missed a field goal down at the wire and blew the season or blew the playoffs? I can't think of a single one.
Might have been one or two here or there, but not much. And just real quick, Tudo, shout out, making a donation to us as well. So thank you, Tudo. Appreciate you.
No, Tudo.
But isn't that kind of crazy? Think about that for a sec. Most NFL teams have a few that they can pinpoint where they think back to, God, you remember that time in the playoffs that, like the Vikings fan when they're whoever that was, Morton Anderson, missed the 2 field goals, or the Bears with a double doink. We've had some meltdowns, but our meltdowns are way more advanced meltdowns. It's never come down to a kick or anything like that. That's what's kind of incredible.
Yeah, I think, and again, in the 80s and 90s, and again, this, Truth, you can speak on this too. I think this is where that age gap comes in. Giants were known for their special teams back in the 80s and under Parcells.
Really? Because my uncle back then, it was bad.
In the 70s when they stunk. Even Dave Jennings was arguably their best player, the punter.
Yep.
Sometimes,
and then you went to Landana, and then you had Gary Reasons, who were faking punts. Right, you had Raina Thompson, who was blocking punts or whatever else.
What about Eagles missing the ball against the Bears? Wait, no, that wasn't Eagles. That was Landana.
That was Landana. Yeah, that was the win. That was the one bad thing that he did. But no, Giants special teams, they were good in all 3 facets back in their heyday. And it's really only been, and I'm gonna go anti what you said here. I'm so glad McGahee is gone, because he's.
I'm glad he's gone. He sucked, and I don't know.
He cost us 3 or 4 games easily the last 2 years each year. Yeah.
No, he was bad. There were things like whoever our punt returner was. I was actually okay with how he was playing. It was more about that. Our coaching sucked, though. I don't know how he was on the team for years too, and the guy before him, Quinn. I mean, that guy was on the team for decades himself. It's
he was a special teams standout back in the day too. So
and so I just kind of sit there. It's listen, I'm not going to say special teams are a third of the game, because I don't believe that's really true. But if there's underperforming people or players or anything like that, you gotta move on quicker than they have, the Giants, in the last 25 years.
I agree. I agree. Truth, what do you think about the whole special teams and looking at bringing in guys from the UFL with the new kickoff that's happening now?
Yeah, I think that you got nothing to lose. You want to bring as many bodies as you can. You might catch a little diamond in the rough. You never know. And like Spartan, I'm not too familiar with the new special teams guy, but you got to think he's better than what we had. That's how I'm thinking. So, and he'll add some new little twists and turns to our special teams.
Yeah,
you can win a game or two with special teams, throughout the year. So it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the new special teams guy came from the Jets. He was the assistant special teams coordinator there, and the Jets had one of the best special teams in the league the last several years. So that is something to look forward to as well. And he's already, just listening to him talk, he's already sounding a lot better than McGahee ever sounded when he's getting asking questions about special teams. So I think it's huge to bring in these UFL guys that went through the kickoff. And I like that Giants are trying to get ahead of the curve instead of being behind the curve like they had been in the last several years. So
Right.
It's showing me things that, like, all right, they're now understanding that special teams is something that can make or break a game here, which I don't think they had the last, several years. So I'm again, we'll see. We'll see what goes on there with that.
People in the right place, people making tackles, no big blow ups, nothing like that. And then, kicking, they do got to figure that out because that was not good last year. That was the first time I ever felt we truly had bad kicking.
Yeah, well, when you lose Gano, right?
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, when you lose Gano, and then you got to bring in other guys, and they just couldn't get it done. And again, kicking when Gano was out cost 2 or 3 games right there, right? So there's other things to look at when you talk about what special teams are, and that's just not being prepared, right? Like, you got one job as a special teams coordinator. Like, you should be prepared. Like, what's going to happen if our kicker goes down? Like, you should have guys in mind, reliable guys, or somebody on the practice squad. Like, those are things.
I do want to highlight. Gano was not. I wanted to check my memory was right. Gano was not very good last year in the 8 games he did play, though.
Yeah,
and he was
when he got injured, right? Like, he was dealing with that injury, and that hurt his numbers, if I'm not mistaken.
What week did he get hurt? Because he played 8 games.
It was early. Like, he was hurt before he went out, before he missed games.
He was fighting it. It was
like 2 or 3 weeks he was fighting it. I remember they announced it, and you could tell it was messing up his kicks. So I want to say it was like 3 weeks before he went out.
That's fine. Yeah. As long as he comes back from his injury and he's in full stride, so be it. As long as that was the injury, I just want to make sure it's that and it's not regressing.
Yeah. So it's good. But again, like, looking at, they signed the running back from the UFL. They signed, Turbo Miller there, Dante Miller. So they're making a concerted effort guys who can make an impact on the special teams. And that is what's refreshing to see here. So I'm excited about that. Now that we got everybody fired up, I think it's time. Let's go into a fun little debate here. I have a feeling the comments is going to get a little spicy when we go into this. And
Spartan, referee here, I could tell.
Truth's going to be the referee. No, Truth. We can get involved here as well. But
Jesse, Chris might come from the back office and enter the chat.
Yeah, break it up. Well, it's interesting. So there's a couple ones that you've been putting out the last couple weeks, and there was one today, Spartan, that I saw, and I thought it'd be good to talk about in the show. So the first one I'm going to start with is at the quarterback position. You kind of threw out there about Dak, the Giants potentially signing Dak as a free agent. So I want to kind of hear your thoughts, why you think that's a good idea, and then I'm going to come with my counter argument. I'm going to say that in a nice way.
Well, I'm not going to come out here and say Dak. But I will ask you guys is this: if Jones flat out doesn't do well this year, and it's guaranteed the Giants have to move on, what would you like the Giants to do at quarterback in 2025?
Go ahead, Truth.
Well, obviously, I mean, I haven't looked that far yet. To be honest with you, I have to see who's available. From what I understand, it's not really a high-level free agency out there with quarterbacks, if I'm right.
Dak would be the most notable name if he does enter, and this is a huge if anyway.
Okay, with that said, I know obviously you can get a quarterback via trade if there's a possibility out there to do a trade. And I'm not going to even comment about the draft because it's too soon to evaluate quarterbacks right now. So, they're going to be in a tough situation, Spartan, to be honest with you. To answer your question in all honesty, they're going to be in a tough situation as of right now, thinking about this team and what quarterback you want to bring there. I don't think you replace garbage with garbage. And I hate to say that. I'm not trying to say they're garbage, but I'm trying to be nice here.
Oh, don't be nice. It's a Monday. Come on, off season.
I just don't think it's a good idea to bring Prescott in to replace Jones. I don't like the idea, but I know you are strong with it. I know your opinion with it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, Sean, let me hear you. What would you like the Giants to do before it's not a it's not necessarily again, it's not like a cheerleading camp for Dak Prescott. It's a consideration of what the realistic options are for 2025. Sean, what would you like the Giants to do a quarterback next year if they move on from Jones?
Well, listen, here's what I'm gonna say right now, and this is the truth. I'm not even thinking about 2025. I'm focused on 2024. Like, I want to see what they do this year. I want to see what Jones does. I'm not looking that far in the future because we have no idea what's going to happen this year. Again, you have some guys you brought in online. You brought in a new online coach. You drafted Malik Neighbors. You got Hyatt and Robinson. So, truthfully, I'm not even thinking that far ahead. I don't even want to think that far ahead. So I'm not avoiding that question. That is the truth. I'm not even thinking that way. But when I hear your thoughts on Dak, I'll give you my thoughts on Dak. I'll go that far.
Sure. I mean, you guys would probably, knowing both of you, I think you would rather, if available, just get a quarterback in the draft and start them, right? Just start fresh. That's probably it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. How bad are we if people are actually considering a freaking cowboy to be our next quarterback? And not only just a freaking cowboy, a cowboy who arguably had one of the best talented rosters in the NFL who can't win. Like, he won one playoff game, right? Let's be
clear about this. He does win. He hasn't succeeded in the playoffs, though. I mean, that's actually true. I'm going to acknowledge that, but he does win games.
Which I don't care. I mean, if you can only win in the regular season, I don't want a guy who can only win in the regular season. What good is that? So we win the division 5-6 years, but we don't get close to sniffing a Super Bowl. Like, if he can't win with Dallas, what makes you think he's going to win with the Giants when it comes to the postseason, right? Like, are we going to feel good about, I'll put this out to people too. Like, what's your goal? Do you want to win divisions or do you want to win a Super Bowl? Right? Like,
what's it going to cost?
Yeah, I mean,
expensive. Let's save the cost for later because I acknowledge that's a consideration, and if you're going to spend that money, you got to know that you're getting good level of play at quarterback.
You want a winner. You want a winner if you're going to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, he's like Tony Romo or Kirk Cousins. He's the same, in my opinion. Right? Like,
so, Sean, to the point about winning Super Bowls, you want to know you got a guy that's capable of winning Super Bowls. Let's remember this: in the last 10 years. 7 of the Super Bowls have been won by the same 2 quarterbacks. It's been Mahomes and Brady, and Manning has one of them. The other one was Nick Foles, who got very lucky. He did play well during his stretch when he had to, but was kind of was along for the ride. I think he's the last true one that was that. And then Stafford was the other one. He was a very good quarterback that went to a team that was very good, and they put it together.
It was loaded.
Right, they were good.
Yeah.
But, so we talk about Dak hasn't put the cherry on top and won a Super Bowl. That's fair. But not that many of the other good quarterbacks in the league have, like Burrow and Allen. Like, we can kind of say the same about them. We dig deep in it, and I do personally too, because I love it when the Cowboys lose in the playoffs. I mean, I was so happy this past year with the Packers. Let me give you a little bit more perspective. I know we don't like the Cowboys. Close your eyes and just imagine this. Dak raises the Lombardi with us. Jerry Jones is so freaking pissed that he has a heart attack and passes away in his sleep that night.
Oh, come on.
Okay, maybe
listen, that's a little extreme, but all right.
Yeah,
we get spicy tonight. We get spicy tonight.
We need one of those, like, little do not please stand by as we like.
Yeah. Oh, we're having technical difficulties right now. Yeah.
So that's where I come from. Think about it like that, because also Dak's actually a pretty good guy. He's a good person.
Yeah,
I don't mind him. But imagine the situation where he does succeed with us. He puts up the Lombardi, and the Cowboys fans are pissed for eternity. Like, if you think about it like that, it might make that a little bit easier. Now, to the other points that you're both making, that I do agree with, and that's why it's not like I'm set on Dak. but cost is going to be huge, and I've seen numbers of upwards of $60 million. That's no joke. You got to know you're going to win. The other thing is, the talent difference. I think the Giants are slowly getting to that point where they do have talent that's pushing the threshold where, okay, they're not the Cowboys, but are they the Buccaneers right before Brady showed up? I think they're getting there. So we'll see how that comes together this year. So the last note I'll say about Dak is this, and the reason why when I look at the option, and this is simply just looking at all the options in 2025. If we don't have a winning record this year, I would argue the Giants are forced, unless Jones is having a Stafford, late 2010s year with the Lions. The Giants are borderline forced to draft. The Giants are forced to draft a guy because now they're going to have 2 losing seasons in a row. They're going to be going into another season, and it's almost like there's going to be pressure to do it. They can't say, you know what, we don't like this class too much. We're going to try to wait till 2025 because then if they go 5-12 next year, their jobs are possibly on the line. And let's say they do get a quarterback in 2025, and they have their 3rd losing year in a row. I don't know if either of those two recover from that. And then the Giants are left with kind of the same situation they were in the second year of Jones. You got a second-year quarterback that's going into a different system. So I tend to lean towards getting a guy who's a proven winner. I'll never say anyone's a guaranteed winner. We saw what happened when Russell Wilson went to the Seahawks or to Denver. There's no guarantees from any side of the park here on this one. But I have faith that Dak Prescott gives a better chance at winning and being there for the division than, Jones does. And, if we drafted a quarterback that was as good or better than Dak, we would call it a success. But you got to remember the odds of hitting on a quarterback to match that nature is pretty low. So
Right.
I'll give it to you guys, and you guys go from there.
Well, when you look at it this way, with all the divisions that Dak has won, he's won as many playoff games as Daniel Jones has.
With a better roster.
Yeah. So it's not about whether he can win the Super Bowl. He can't even, he only got past the first round one time.
He's got 2.
Does he have 2?
Got 2.
All right. So all right, there you go. Woo! He's got one more playoff win than Daniel Jones with a much better
balloons will fly.
right? I like the balloon. So again, I just think we know what Dak is. Yes, he can put up numbers, but what's gonna make him different with the Giants that he couldn't do with the Cowboys? Like if you bring him in, okay, maybe he wins the division, but what's he gonna do differently with the Giants and win in the playoffs that he couldn't do with the Cowboys with the best offensive line, great weapons, and a much better defense too. Let's be realistic. Like that's the part I don't get. Like I get the numbers. So it's what's important to you. And I'm not saying you personally, Spartan. I'm saying to people, because you're not the only one who thinks Dak should be a Giant as well. Do you want to win divisions or do you want to win the Super Bowl? Do you want to win far in the playoffs? Like if you want to win divisions, if you want to win 10, 11 games every year, Dak is a great option. But he's been in the league long enough to know he's only going to go so far. Mm-hmm. Like that's my take, right? Get a guy who at least if there's not, here's my wild take. I'm going to put this out there and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but here's my wild take. You mentioned Mahomes earlier, who's won however many Super Bowls he's won in the last several years, right? So you got Buffalo, who is on that side of the ball. They may look at it and be like, we're not going to get past Mahomes. My wild take is that the Giants trade for Josh Allen at some point because Buffalo is going to be like, okay, we need to go in a different direction. We need to rebuild. I would not be shocked if that happens. Wild take, I get it. Y'all can crush me on it, but
I don't think that's a bad idea. And
that's a wild take I'm looking at.
You're talking about in the offseason? This is the offseason?
I'm not necessarily saying this offseason. I'm saying my wild take is somewhere in the near future that the Giants tried to trade for Josh Allen because Dabes is a huge fan of his. Yeah. And that's a guy who's won. He's competed against Mahomes. You know he's gone to the AFC Championship, right? I think it was AFC Championship, right? So that's a guy that can get you there, and he just couldn't get past Mahomes. So you take away Mahomes and you put him in the Giants with his former offensive coordinator, who he had great success with. Again, it's a wild take, and I'm fine with it. But all right,
No, that's
Crypto.
not a dumb take.
All right, Crypto. Listen, Crypto.
Crypto.
Yeah.
We talk about the cost, right? Money is expensive. Allen's still going to be expensive. But now we're talking about trading too, instead of being able to walk away with Dak without having to give up draft capital. I am not opposed to trading for Allen, and I'm not opposed to trading for any legitimate quarterback. But, what are you comfortable giving up for him?
Well, first of all, wait. Let me
Go
just
ahead.
let me back up about Prescott. You talk about him coming to the Giants. If he was that difference maker of a quarterback, and the Giants were a quarterback away of going to the Super Bowl, like the Bucs were when Brady got there. The Bucs had a really good roster. We knew that about it, especially their defense. We knew that they were loaded on the defensive side of the ball. And Brady made a world of difference. Don't forget, Crunk joined them too. Added that big tight end that they never had. So Dak Prescott wouldn't be the difference maker, and the Giants roster wouldn't warrant to make that big of a commitment to get a $50+ million quarterback, which is probably what it would be, right? This is what you're leading up to, about how much it will be, about $50 million, you think?
Dak would it's 60 probably for Dak.
60? Oh boy.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's the word out there that he's looking for.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay.
Yeah.
Spartan, what do you think?
No, you bring up I think the part that I disagree with you on is how far away the Giants are from being that. I mean, I tend to feel, and I'm pretty negative, I know that, but I do think that the Giants actually have some young talent that are coming together. So 3 years ago, and I'm going to say, 4, like 2019-ish, that was an era where that was like a year where you just look around and we were playing with complete clowns in spots that didn't deserve to be out there. As I go through the Giants defense, a lot of these guys can at least hold their water, but we got some guys that can make some plays. So where the Giants are severely lacking still, offensive line, we'll have to see the receivers come together. And obviously we don't really have much of a run game. But if the Giants offensive line comes together this year and they play good, then I think the argument goes out the door pretty significantly for turning against a quarterback for concern that they're not going to be able to play well because of a talent gap. I think if they address that, I think they're in a serious position to play. So it's a good question though, because they do have to assess that. Sean, can I go back to just one point you made against Dak, or just in general? You ask, would you rather be competing for divisions or would you rather be competing for Super Bowls? I'd rather right now, for the next few years, know that my team's at least competing to get to the Super Bowl, and competing to get to the Super Bowl is winning the division. And in the meantime, and this way you can keep continuity and still have Shane and Dable and not risk, because the odds that any of these drafted quarterbacks are guys that are going to be that good, I'm concerned that it's relatively low. No guarantees, though. If the Giants do feel like any of these quarterbacks in that couple of years are going to be the guy, go for it. I hope it works out. Right. But I also don't really want that quarterback to be pressured. I'm against rookie quarterbacks starting for much of the rookie year. I don't want them to be put in that position, but the rookie quarterback's going to have to next year if they move on from Jones. So and even if they got Dak, let's say for 4 years, when they're a couple years in with him, they could be looking at doing a Kansas City model at that point. And I think that might be the best foot going forward. And maybe it could be looked at like what it was with the Chiefs and Alex Smith. They're still going to the playoffs every single year leading up to getting Mahomes. And then Mahomes sat a year. And then Mahomes goes out there and he balls out. I'm cool with that. I think Dak's better than Alex Smith. And can, but results-wise can garner the same for what the Chiefs were in like the mid-2010s. Super Bowl, it'd be tough. But it's going to be tough for any quarterback not named Mahomes.
I just think it's because, again, with Alex Smith, like, he was in a different situation than Dak in that regard because that Kansas City model was Alex Smith was winning, or you thought he was like Dak has already been there a number of times and couldn't get the job done, right? So I guess in truth, you can speak on this too. Like when you look back at the Giants of the past and in their heyday, they were really good for a while. They won 2 Super Bowls, then they had a down year, and then they were good again. They got the Super Bowl, and then Eli came and things kind of changed there too. But it's just I know, like in my mind, I don't believe Dak can get another playoff win. Like maybe he does, maybe I just don't see it. Like you've seen what he can do. He's shown who he is. He's a regular season stat monster. Has he played a little bit better in the playoffs last couple of years? Yeah, but I get it. We want to win. It's been down. We haven't won in a while. It's just my take is, man, like if I know Dak isn't going to get us anywhere near even, he hasn't even been to an NFC championship. Like, and who's he had to compete against in the playoffs, right? Like that roster and those teams, like we've all said it, like they should have been there. They should have been in at least a couple NFC championships games. So that's just my only take on Dak is we know what he is already, where some of those other guys you mentioned, like an Alex Smith, we didn't really still know what he was other than he did well in San Francisco, right? So, and then going to Kansas City, I get that model, but I just don't, and you're paying that much for Dak. Like, and again, it just shows how bad we are that we're talking about a cowboy, like potentially quarterback in the Giants. Like we're in a sad state, man.
The money hurts, no doubt. But, it's like that's the difference. Like I'm not paying the money anyway. I know Craig always brings that up, but it's always about the cap. It's always about the cap. It's not like the Giants have unlimited money to spend. You're right. It's like 60 million. That's over, almost, it's really pushing 20% of what the payroll would be, or, like what the Giants can pay total across the team. And it's like, man, that's a lot of money, but the quarterback market's so crazy right now. It's like, I'll take a $60 million guy that can, punch for the division rather than a $40 million guy that, his best year. I mean, he did have a good playoff game, but, it's still he's not really, balling out. But, we'll see. Bottom line is whatever the Giants do for the quarterback situation, just do the right thing, get a guy that's going to win.
Listen, this is the last thing I'm going to say at this point. We'll move on to the other one. But here's the thing, like people, and I've mentioned this before, is let's look at the Giants in a vacuum right now. Let's look at the 3 years under Shane and Dable. Jones won a playoff game. I get it was Minnesota. I get the defense was bad. I understand that. Last year he was injured. Things didn't happen. And again, I'm not saying he's the guy, but if we look at it just in a microscope, year one under Dabes and Shane, made it to the playoffs, won a playoff game. Year two, all those injuries, everything kind of happened. So this is really the telling year, in my opinion. This is what we know it's going to be. Like, if he comes out, if he does well, and again, I get people want to look at, oh, he's not putting up big numbers. All I care about is, are they going to win? I don't care if he only throws for 3,000 yards or two. If they win, that's all I care about. If he can help them lead them to wins, that's all I care about. I don't need him to throw 4,000 yards or be this. I win games. That's, and again, there's nothing against anybody else or whoever thinks that. Just win friggin' games. And again, playoff win, like we should be excited about that, right? Like if we look at last year, what the problem is with Jones is we're looking at his 6-year stint as opposed to looking at when he got a good coach, he did well. He had his best year, or arguably his best year under Dabes, right? Won a playoff. They did well. Last year was injured. He looked like crap. I've already said I'm out on him. So again, I'm not defending Jones here. He's in the best situation he's been in this year by far. And on paper, and an upgraded O-line when it comes to talent. On paper, easily an upgraded, proven offensive line coach. He's got a weapon in Malik Neighbors. If he can't do well with that, like, okay, gone. But if he wins 9 games, we make a playoff, and he does, 3,500 yards? Is that a bad year? Like, let's be realistic. Does he need to put up Burrow numbers? Does he need to put up a Dak numbers? Like, I don't think he does. I just think they need to win.
Right. And truth, I'm sorry. I feel like I've been hogging so much of the conversation. I just want to hand it.
That's all right. I'll jump in when you're done.
Yeah, and now we're kind of turning to one of the things that we wanted to bring up, and I know we're running low on time here, but what does Jones need to do to make you say, you know what, I'm cool with him coming back? He's obviously got to prove that under Dable that 2022 was the fluke and not 2020. Or I'm sorry, 2023 was the fluke and not 2022. But when the Giants won in 2022, a lot of those games came down to, much of the offensive productivity was on Saquon. The defense was coming up big, and Jones did have some fourth quarter drives. He didn't turn over the ball much. Those were all very good things. But what I really want to see him do is, I need to see him driving and commanding an offense that is going out there and really creating a threat for opposing teams. I don't trust that Daniel Jones is somebody that a lot of defensives respect right now. And he's got to go out there against crappy teams, 4 times a year, go out there and have those, lights out performances. Eli Manning versus Raiders 2009 versus Bucks 2012. Show us a couple of those. Middle of the game, he's still going to have some crappy games. It is what it is. And then, those middle of the game roads against good teams is when he's got to scrap it out and play, tough football. Not against a 5-11 team. He's got to go out there against good teams and win.
Yeah. In truth, what do you want to add there? Go ahead, jump in, man.
Well, it's just to kind of piggyback what you were talking about. I think with Jones, because of the injuries he's got now over the last few years, I don't think you're going to see design running plays like they have had for him, especially when he had that pretty good year when he did take him to the playoffs. So I think he is going to throw for more yardage. I really do. No, he will not throw 4,000 yards. If he does, that's great. I'll be happy. But like you said, Shawnee, I don't think the measure of success for Daniel Jones depends on his stat line. I think it depends on wins and losses. So, and if any Giant fan is upset if the Giants are winning and Jones isn't lighting it up, then I hate to say it, you're ignorant. You really are.
Yeah, that's not a real fan right there.
Yeah, that's not a real fan. It's wins and losses. That's the stat line. And I do believe, though, Jones will throw for more yardage because of his past few injuries. They're not going to let him run a lot, like they did. Only he'll run out of necessity, running for his life. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
But and he's got weapons now, like you guys pointed out. And let's not forget the tight ends. We didn't mention any of them tonight. They got some tight ends, guys. So don't think that. Don't think wide receiver.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, with Johnson and Bellinger and whoever else they put out there, and then Dayball calling plays is going to be a big difference in my opinion.
Well, I can't wait for that aspect. I mean, just give me that Arizona game last year. Good Lord, just let me see that.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. And again, I think what you've seen that Dayball's done this offseason, it speaks to it's going to be a different type of offense. It's going to be. He's going to try to run it like he did in Buffalo. I firmly believe that. I know we may run over a little bit because I do want to get to this one. So I think this is a good one to have because this one gets me fired up. So Spartan, you were on there. You've been touting the Illuminor to tackle over Neal. So kind of again, tell me your thoughts. Let's talk about that. I'll give you kind of my counter argument to that one.
Yeah. So I mean, right now today, Illuminor was brought in here not to start right off the bat. He's there in case Neal fails, which is why I was so happy that he came here. I don't want Illuminor, I don't want the plan to be put Illuminor in there right now and Neal's automatically the backup. I want it to be one of those situations where Neal's the guy, but if he's not looking good in preseason or training camp, I want Illuminor in there as soon as the season starts. Because I don't want to skip a beat with a crappy offensive line at any part of the season. I think they make that decision then because, I mean, Illuminor is actually a good right tackle. Yeah. We're very lucky the Giants have him. He's not just a plug-and-play guy. He is good.
Yep.
And so I sit here and say, look, if they go into week one and they feel more confident that Illuminor is going to be a better person to play right tackle and Neal's still not coming around to the position. I know he was injured last year, so they got to keep that in mind. I think Illuminor's got to start. The unfortunate reality is, and I do acknowledge this, Illuminor could probably play guard. He's got more of a build for it. Neal probably can't play guard from what a lot of people are pointing to, just due to his frame. Right, real quick, right now, someone help me out. Is Illuminor projected to play right guard or left guard?
Right guard.
Okay.
Left guard. Sorry, left guard.
See, I don't like that. We just had Pugh on the show a couple months ago talking about that. If you go from right guard to right tackle, That shift apparently for linemen is not that challenging to overcome. When you go from left guard or left side of any part of the line to the right side, that is a serious issue for offensive linemen. And Puke says it is extremely difficult to overcome that. And that's what caused a lot of Giants problems last year. It's not like the next man was up, the next man would be shifted over, the next man would be turned from the other side. I don't want to see that. So more importantly for me right now than Illuminor versus Neal, I want Runyon at left guard. I want Illuminor at right guard. Then you do the Kansas City model with Illuminor as Mahomes and Neal as Alex Smith, but you make that change before week 1 if things are not coming along. If I don't want to see like week 4 and then they finally shift Neal and Illuminor around, because that would show that the Giants have serious weaknesses at the offensive line, which is likely losing to a lack of success.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say this. Number one, you have the same coach who coached Illuminor, who really wasn't doing much before he got under Brasillo. Brasillo turned him into a very good, lineman there in Vegas, right? So now you got Brasillo working with Neal to make him that. Here's what I would say also when it comes to, so number one, let's see what Brasillo can do with, because I trust him more than any other coach that I've trusted with the Giants on O-line since Flaherty, right? Like Brasillo has the proven track record. He has the stats. He's shown what he's done with the O-line in Vegas with guys, again, that weren't high draft picks. Now, getting to people flip out over, and again, played the running back position, so I know a lot about the O-line, what O-line does. Like, I know people say the back and forth, right to left, but here's the thing when you look at it, right? If you're going to put Illuminor, who hasn't played guard in 2 years, right, or 3 years, however long it's been, would you rather have him next to Evan Neal or Andrew Thomas?
What, Runyon?
No, Illuminor. So Illuminor hasn't played guard in like 2 or 3 years. Would you rather put him, who's rusty at guard, next to Evan Neal or Andrew Thomas?
Based on what Puke said, I'm going to say that I even though it's a risk, I'd rather have Illuminor on the right side so that he's accustomed to the right side. Given that, based on what Puke said, that gives me a little bit, like what's the greater downfall? Illuminor's at left guard and Runyon's at right guard. Then Neal falters. Then they put Illuminor at right tackle. Then nothing's going to work out. If
Didn't Runyon said he likes to play left guard too? Didn't he say that?
He did, but he's fine at right guard. And I think what Pugh's statement, I think it's also, if you're looking at going from right tackle to left guard, or a right tackle to left tackle, or vice versa, that's a harder one because you have guys coming off the edge. If you're on the inside, I don't think it's as challenging because you have less space to cover. So I think now again, he may have said
faster. Who made that comment that even though it's inside between the tackles, it's faster in there for offensive guards and centers. The game moves quicker.
It's quicker, not necessarily faster.
You're making contact faster than you would at the edge. You have a little bit of time to think about it and tackle.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's fine. And so in my mind, and from what I remember, like Runyon was a very high graded pass blocker. Yes. You want that guy who's a high rated pass blocker next to Evan Neal to help out, because where did the Giants struggle in the pass game? Where did Neal struggle a little bit? In the pass game, right? And then you look at, you had for 2 years, they couldn't block a stunt or a twist. So you have Runyon, who's also smart, Illuminor smart, to help out Neal a little bit more. Like Illuminor and I like it. Again, I know people make the changing and this, that, and the other thing, but they haven't been flip-flopping them in spring, and they probably won't flip them there. Like they've had the same guys in the same positions, right?
Right. Everybody should be playing the same.
Right. It wasn't like what Bobby Johnson was doing. Bobby Johnson had guys switching every practice or every other practice, whatever he was doing, guys playing a different position. So they're going to get there. And I know Crypto brought out about Ezeudu, but again, Ezeudu is, here's the thing, and I think I said this last week, but I'll say it again. There is a swing tackle is the person who plays both tackle positions, not somebody who plays guard and tackle. Ezeudu is not the swing tackle. He is versatile. So Ezeudu has played all 5 positions in college. In fact, he played all 5 positions, I believe, in the same game, if I'm not mistaken. So they like him for whatever reason better out there. I love him at guard. I thought he played good at guard. But they're trying to get him out there because he can play guard or tackle. But he's not the swing tackle. The swing tackle is the person who plays both tackle positions, which I believe Matt Nelson they brought in to be that swing tackle out of Detroit. So,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So let me ask this, right? All right, let's say Neal's not looking good in the preseason. Like he's still not being able to pick up. They do the ones in preseason, right? They're not coming together.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with like? Would you still want him to start week 1 to just see how he does in the live, like in game play, so like they can kind of feel for certain that they have a draft bust, or do you trust the preseason gives you that process enough?
Yeah, I would want him to start week 1. I mean, unless he's looking really bad. And again, the other thing to keep in mind is he had the ankle injury last year, which not a lot of people knew about. So if you have an ankle injury and the issue was balance and everything else, like your ankle is going to affect that at a guy his size.
Yeah.
So let's see what he does. But unless he's just flat out garbage in the preseason, he's going to start week 1. Like I don't see that not happening. And again, we have a coach who can develop guys and coach guys up. Like people freak out, but look at the coach. Like really look. Yeah. And
give him opportunities. It's his seventh all around pick. They're going to give him every opportunity. They have to. While he's in his rookie deal, they have to.
But at some point, like, they will have to acknowledge if he's just not coming together that he's.
Yeah, at some point it's going to come to a boil, of course. Yeah,
you watched that video. I forget who broke it down. Really good job on Twitter, whoever made that video. But I mean, Neal, when he was out there, yes, he was hurt. He was hurt. Let's say he plays like that, just the level of play he was giving, no matter what the problems were, was really detrimental to the offense. It was bad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And again, if it was the ankle injury impact, again, you look at where the criticisms came in last year, that ankle injury is going to impact that. Yeah. So let's see. And again, like we talk about like on paper, but again, Brasillo in Vegas has the proven record, the stats he had.
Yeah.
He had to line the top 15 in the league the last 2 seasons or the 2 seasons he was there. Right. So he's got a track record. Like Bobby Johnson never had a track record. Never once had a track record of doing anything good. And before that, who do we have that was good? So I'll say this again. If we've complained about the O-line for the last several years, how can you not be excited about bringing in Brasillo, who's done well with an O-line and had them? Imagine if we have just an above average O-line, right. The top 20 or 25. Yeah. Holy cow.
Give me a chance.
I would take it.
Yeah. So again, if Neal had that, and Crypto just brought this up too, like he always looks gimpy. Well, yeah, if he had the ankle injury and that was going on, let's see how he healed. Let's see how the surgery did. I just fail to believe that this guy who dominated the SEC is going to be a bust. Like he's got this year. Like I will go after him if he does not do well this year. Like I'll change my tune on Neal, but until he gets a good coach, I'm not giving up on the guy yet. And I'll continue to say that, and I'll continue to take crap for it. That's fine by me. Drews, you got any other?
I will support
him.
No,
I totally agree with you.
Flourish, but the Giants need to do what's in the best interest of the quarterback too, because again, they might have to make that call sooner rather than later for the sake of other players on the team like Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
they might, but they may not. You don't know.
Yeah, and it's just going to be we got to wait and see. But again, with Hard Knocks coming up, that's going to give us some insight. Maybe they'll talk about some things with Neal. Maybe they'll talk about something with the O-line. Like on paper, they have upgraded. Like Illuminor and Runyon are better than what they had last year at the guards.
Yes, those are great. Those are great acquisitions.
Yeah, and even the backups are better than what they have as backups. So again, that's
now they weren't starting. I'm playing.
Right, exactly. So that's the thing you want to look at. And I know we're going to end here in a minute, but one other thing I want to bring up, going back to what we talked about with the quarterback salaries. I don't know if any of you guys saw or anybody in the comments saw, but there was rumors out there that the owners are trying to get a quarterback only cap going on, which I think would be great for the league because in my opinion, quarterbacks are highly overpaid and affecting team construction. So if you do a separate cap for the quarterbacks, then you can actually get guys and stay. You don't have cap casualties. I think it would be great for the league. So did you guys see that? And if you didn't, what's your thoughts on hearing that now?
I've heard the rumors about that for a while, and I do look forward to that because it is detrimental. Like it's becoming too much of an impact on your ability to team build. Because now you can get Dak Prescott.
Sure. How about you? What's your thoughts?
I'm just curious who was bringing it up. Was it more about the players bringing it up, the union, or it was
The owners. It was the owners.
Okay.
The owners.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
going to be a tough sell, I think, with the player union. I think that's going to be a tough one. But I would like to see it because it does give you flexibility. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it'd be a tough sell because you're not changing what they're going to make. You just have them count against themselves as opposing counting against the cap. So I would think they would go for it because then that means players aren't going to get cut. They can stay with the team more. Like there's more flexibility there.
All right, but would that at some point lower their annual how much they make if they do that? Would it give the owners more power if you did that? I don't know.
No, I don't think it changes what they can make. It just means it's not going to count against the team cap. Like they're going to have their own separate cap. So I don't know. Although I do think quarterback salaries have gotten way out of control. So there needs to be some sort of, they got to get it back in line. Like if you're not going to do a quarterback only cap, like where they have their own separate cap that doesn't count against the team, then you got to do something to get quarterback salaries back. Cause we're paying guys that aren't even winning in this league absurd amounts of money, like no proven guys,
yeah.
right? It's just crazy. So I honestly, I would like it to go back to where there was no salary cap at all. Like I know people say it's parity now. It's not parity.
You would be all right. Giants have a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, there's no, what parity is it now? You had the Patriots and you had the Chiefs that are winning the majority of the Super Bowl. So what's different? And it'd be great for the fans because now players are going to stay. Like there's that, you don't have that loyalty that you did as a fan back in the day, right? So I'm all for it. Get rid of the cap. Like, I don't care. Crazy wild takes tonight for me. Get rid of the cap. Go back to where
you've been eating those mushrooms again, Sean.
Joker was out. Joker was out in full force. I like the good old days. I'm not gonna lie, right? Like you think back, you could buy a jersey and you knew the player was going to be there for a long time. Like now it's like a player could be gone in 3 years because hey, we're cap strapped because we just paid a quarterback $100 million or whatever the hell it was, right? Like so I just want to I want to get fan engagement back to where it needs to be, where you're really supporting the players more. You're not looking at them as dollar signs. You're like, it's not fun for me. Again, that's my own personal opinion there with that. So, yeah. So, well, listen, guys in the comments were great. Cole didn't give me any crap tonight, so I don't know if he was too busy, but thanks for that. Yeah, crypto. I mean, that's a. I mean, he gives me crap on Twitter too, so it's all good. I'm fine. We can handle it. Crypto and I can go back and forth with takes. So
he gave us a donation tonight, so we have to take it.
Right, exactly. Him and Tudo, and I think there's something to be said. Like we've noticed that like when Craig's not here, like we get a lot more donations for whatever reason.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. So Craig's gonna see us like, what are these guys doing? Craig, we miss you, man. We want you here.
Craig, making your bread.
Yeah. So you left in good hands with the guys tonight. But as always, guys, we know we say this a lot, but I'm going to say it again. Tell your friends, get them to like, get them to subscribe to the YouTube page. That's really going to help us out a lot. You guys do a great job of doing things. And so tell your friends, have them tell their friends, get those numbers up. Help us get those numbers up on YouTube. We really appreciate that. And Spartan and Truth, man, this was a fun show. You guys,
It was awesome.
It was good. Yeah. It was good.
Yeah, spirited. Yeah, comments were good. So hopefully Craig will get some good feedback from the people that report to him.
Oh yeah. All right, guys. Hey, take care. Thank you guys.
All right, bye guys.
See ya.
Peace, everyone.